What's up, Lifetac fam? Back again. We're going to do another video today. Today's video is going to be on a Lexus ES330, a 2004, and today we're going to be doing a radiator. So let's get right into it. Okay, so before you start the radiator, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to clear out everything out of the way from the radiator so you can make it so that it's very easily accessible and you can just pull it out right away. So the first thing you're going to want to do is remove this plastic cover here and this air intake tubing right here. Okay, so mine's missing a bunch of the pins, but in order to take off this plastic cover right here, there's going to be these little push pins right here. So you're just going to want to lift this up, pull that out, and you got the pins right there. And this should be very easily removed. Just like that. So there's going to be a bunch of them all around here. There's one here, and then there's a couple down here. Okay, so once you got pretty much everything cleared out, all the pins off, you can just pull this cowl right out. And next you're going to take off this air tubing right here. So there's going to be a couple 10s. So you're going to take off these 10s right here. I've already loosened them up for you guys, obviously. Take all this stuff out, get it out of the way. Take this one off so that you're going to be able to take off this metal frame bar right here so you can access the radiator easily. Okay, so the next part is going to be taking off this bar here. So you're going to want to remove a couple pieces of here. So you're going to take off this 10, this 10. And there's two more on the opposite side, and then you're going to have to take off the hood latch so you can get to that center bolt right there so you can remove this top frame bar. Okay, so you're going to remove the plug for the hood latch sensor. Just push on the tab here, pulls out, and then for the horn, you're going to push on this tab right here on the side and pull it out, just like that. Same for the other side. Push on this tab here. This one seems a little bit more difficult, but it should come right out. Oh, it seems like we have the latch itself is broken, so we're just gonna have to push in that little tab right there and pull it out. You're gonna have this cable here still attached to it, so you just unclip it from the clip there, put this aside, and you can pull out the frame all by itself. Put it to the side. So now we have easy access to the radiator, and we can start removing everything we need to get this puppy out. Okay, so we're going to have to remove the battery in order to take out this tubing here. So let's go ahead and take off the battery. It's probably a good idea to remove the battery just so we don't actually do anything with the electronics of the vehicle. Let's go ahead and disconnect. Go ahead and loosen. Just pull off the terminals, and the battery should just come right off. Gotta remove the plate. And you can kind of just pull out the tube. Just like that. So now we got to jack up the car, put some jack stands under the car, and start draining out the coolant. Okay, so we're gonna start draining out the coolant here. I got my pan underneath, and if you look underneath the vehicle, just right about here, right in the center of the vehicle, this is where you're gonna drain out all your coolant. So you're just gonna untwist this thing right here, and then make sure your pan is underneath, and it's gonna start draining out. Just like that. Bam. You can go to open the top, the radiator cap, so it can start dripping faster, and make sure it drains all out. Okay, so the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to remove the coolant hose. So by that, you just use some channel locks. So now that we got our coolant draining out, we can go ahead and take off the bottom cover down here, and we can go ahead and disconnect the lower radiator hose. Okay, as you guys can see on the driver's side here, you're going to look right underneath the driver's side, and you're going to see the lower radiator hose right here. Just take off this clamp, squeeze it, pull it back, and take this guy off. Alright, now let's go ahead and just drain out all the coolant and get ready to take off the radiator and the fan assembly. Okay, one thing I did forget is removing the cooler lines that are connected to the radiator itself, right on the bottom right here. So there's a cooler line here, and there's a cooler line here. Same thing, just squeeze the clamps, and you can pull these guys right off, and we'll be ready to take off this radiator in no time. Okay, when you take off those cooler lines on the bottom, they're gonna leak a little bit of transmission fluid, but that's okay, so but be ready to catch it. Now, almost ready to take this off. Before you take off your fan and radiator assembly, you're gonna wanna disconnect the plugs for the radiator, or the fan assembly, I should say. So you unplug this one right here, there's a black one, and there's a gray one. You just push the tabs and pull it out. So we're all ready to take this out, I think. Let's see how it goes. Be very careful when you pull this out. Make sure that there's nothing catching, like wires and plugs. And there it goes. We got it. Okay, we got it here. So all you gotta do is just take off these 10s here, one here. There's 1, 2, 3. I think there's just 3 of them, and then you can just take this right out. Let's go ahead and take this off. So we got our 3 bolts out. Now, this should just slide. Oh, we have a plug here on the back corner. So this plug right here, I think it's a thermostat temp sensor. So you can just unplug it. I think you need 2 hands to take that one out, but just take off that plug right there. Alright, so I got the new one right next to the old one, side by side, and it looks identical. The only thing we're gonna have to replace is this temp sensor here and these rubber boots. Take off those boots. Should be simple. We'll just take off the boots there and swap them over to the new ones. You can untwist this right here, and when you untwist that, that's where your new temp sensor is going to go. So let's get to it. Okay, we're ready to put our new radiator in. We're going to show you guys where these boots that you swapped over from the old one onto the new one sit onto the frame here. So if you look inside the frame, you're going to see these little holes for where those boots are going to sit. You're going to place the whole unit with the fan and radiator assembly all together in one. Okay, so when you're putting this radiator and fan assembly in, you want to be careful that you don't hit any of the fins on the radiator. So place it in there so ever so gently. Make sure they sit in those holes, and you're good. So now you're going to want to go ahead and fasten and put on the bottom radiator hose. You can just push that on here from the top or the bottom if you want. And you're going to want to put on those cooler lines on the bottom. I'll show you guys right now. Here we are on the bottom. The cooler lines from the new radiator have these little nipple covers. So we'll go ahead and pull those off. Okay. And go ahead and replace the hoses onto the new fittings. Just like that. If it'll focus. Go ahead, slide that clamp in, and go ahead and slide this last radiator hose clamp in, and we're ready to continue finishing off this radiator. There we go. Got the bottom hose clamp for the radiator hose, got the two cooler line hoses connected, and we're good to go. Okay, so here we are back on the top. You're going to want to plug in your connectors for your radiator fan. So go ahead and just plug those back in. And then we can go ahead and put on our top radiator hose. Slide it on. Slide this on over here. Okay. And go ahead, when you put these clamps on, you're going to want to come over here and let me show them. It's pretty important that when you put the clamp on, that you put it back in the exact same impression that it was on before. As you can see right here, you're going to want to just slide it just like that. And just maneuver it so that it was on exactly how it was, because it's already molded to it. And so a lot of times if this clamp is not perfectly on the way it was before, it will leak. Boom. So now we got pretty much the radiator and the fan all in together and connected. All we got to do is put everything back together and fill her up with coolant, and we're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put this air tubing back in. Just go ahead and slide it in through here. put back the frame here. We'll go ahead and slide this on. You can see that the radiator has these pins or these prongs that come up. They're going to go right into these holes right here. So just line it all up and everything should be perfectly aligned. Okay, so now you're going to want to put your tens back in and connect everything back together. Put your hood latch back on. So I pretty much have all the air intake channels and hoses put back together. I put the plastic cover on, I put the frame back on, and along with the hood latch. So now I'm just going to go ahead and pin everything down, connect the battery, and add coolant, and we'll be ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and put some Toyota red or pink, which is what the OE spec calls for. Fill her up. This is 100%, so we're going to go ahead and put in all of this and mix it with some distilled. I'll put the rest in here. Alright, so we pretty much installed the radiator. I showed you everything you needed to do. We put on all the plastic cover pieces that we have here, connected the battery, and filled her up with coolant. So now we're going to go ahead and start her up, and we're going to go ahead and bleed the system, make sure we get all the air bubbles out of it. So let's go ahead and do that.
Nothing's happening.
Okay, we got the car started, and we'll go ahead and just keep it running for a little bit until we have as much bubbles and air come out of the system as possible. And we might even have to drive it a little bit and kind of run it a little bit hard just so we can get most of the air bubbles out. So that concludes our radiator video for our 2004 Lexus ES330. So I hope this helped you, and if you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. That helps me tremendously. So I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys on the next one.